For the love of Chicago, my name is Tom Barnes in the Theater District of Chicago, right outside of the Goodman, celebrating 100 years of theater in Chicago, doing so with this musical called Iceboy, starring Illinois' very own Nick Offerman. You know him from Parks and Rec, you know him from that awesome episode in The Last of Us, many other things. We're talking a little about his career, a little bit about his roots here in the Midwest, and how important Chicago theater has been for his career and beyond. That is For Love of Chicago at the Goodman. Well, first of all, welcome back to Illinois. Joliet native? Is that right?
Born in Joliet,
yeah.
but grew up in Minooka.
Minooka, yeah.
It's a funny distinction. I mean, Minooka, especially in the 70s and 80s, was a very small farm town, and Joliet was the big city. They had two malls.
Joliet had two malls?
Yeah, the Jefferson Mall and the Louis Joliet Mall.
I've been there.
And so, like, when people say, you grew up in Joliet, I'm like, no, I'm not a city. I'm not urban. I'm from the country.
I've been to Minooka one time, coming home from a homecoming, or picking up my girlfriend at Augustana College. My car broke down in Minooka. Nice people. Helped me out.
It's a good place to break down.
They did. They picked me up and drove me all the way to Palos Hills, where I was going to my prom.
Yeah, in fact, I think the sign, village of Minooka, the welcome sign says, a nice place to call home.
You are here with Iceboy the musical. It's extended through August 16th. Obviously, it's doing pretty good, right? What's that mean for you to come back to the Goodman, almost a homecoming, if you will? Because did I read that in '94? This is where you debuted.
It was. I did. It was my second show in Chicago. The first one was Kabuki Medea. Up at the Wisdom Bridge Theater, which is no longer with us, but that was started by Robert Falls.
Oh, wow.
And Megan's first show, 10 years earlier, was Robert Falls' first professional musical. He was 24, she was 20, and so it's a very small world. And so getting to make our comeback for the closing show of the 100th season of the Goodman is incredible. We're very grateful.
And growing up in the area, or cutting your teeth in Chicago, how did that play into deciding to work on this project, and also with your wife as well? I mean, you guys do a lot of projects together. What does this mean to you?
Well, I mean, we met doing a play, and we really, it's strange to me how anomalous it is for a couple to love working together, because doing especially a play together, you're really together a lot, and we've done two-handers where we just share a dressing room. And it's funny, the majority of people say, are you crazy? It's I love going to work to get away from my spouse, and I say, well, I think that says a little bit about your decision making.
Yeah.
You can, if you don't like the person you've promised to spend your life with, you might want to think about changing that. But we feel very lucky. We love working together. And we have a real student-teacher dynamic. Megan's 11 years older than me. And so from the get-go, she's very masterful. I mean, she was born with this incredible skill set and talent that she then works incredibly hard to augment, and I was not. And so I happily, aspire to her and other great masters that I work with and around. And so we really love getting to do, especially musical comedy, I think, is her greatest superpower. And this show is perfectly engineered to allow me as the narrator to sort of ride shotgun on this show. Everybody else in this show could be the lead in any musical. They're all so incredibly skilled. I can't, and I'm happy. I'm okay with that. I'm not a great singer. I'm a competent singer. I can hit my note, but nobody ever asks me to.
Would you though, if you could?
For sure.
Because you've done music stuff.
I have. I love. But the thing is, and I tour. In fact, Monday, July 13th, I'm doing this benefit, and my main form of laughter delivery when I perform as a comedian is I write funny songs. And the key to them, and they're very successful, people mostly don't leave when I'm doing them, but it's because they laugh, because my jokes work. And if I'd take the jokes out and just say, here's a nice song, people would probably get up and go to the bathroom or go get another beer.
And you're talking about the show at the Ramova.
That's
is that
right.
correct?
Yeah.
What is that? And I know that kind of ties in your college years and where you were in college at U of I. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, it's all of a piece, really. I mean, in our theater program down there in Champaign-Urbana, we had this professor, our sensei, Shozo Sato, who was from Japan, and taught this whole raft of Japanese arts, but specifically for us, it was kabuki theater.
Okay.
And it was traditional Japanese theater, which we ended up touring Japan and Hungary and Cyprus. We were there for his retirement, and so they did this big tour to celebrate him. But that was also the first show I did in town professionally. So he was so incredibly influential in all of our lives, both in how he taught us to revere the theater and what happens here, but also just how to then incorporate the arts into our lives and to sort of dovetail the two. And it affected my life. He was the most profound teacher that I ever had. And so once I began to win the lottery as an actor, it was just kind of a no-brainer. We only lost him a couple years ago, and so for years then, I would get together with him. I built a gazebo on the grounds of his compound there is called Japan House, and that's what this show Monday night is benefiting, is Japan House. It's this Japanese art center. It's like a park with a pond and a bridge and this gazebo and some forest areas, a lane of cherry blossoms in the spring, and then this art center where you can take a class or just experience a tea ceremony or ikebana flower arrangement, sumie, black ink, painting, all of these art practices that are also disciplines and philosophies that just really changed my life. I was this simple football playing Midwestern kid, and I was taking classes from this guy who just gave me these life lessons, like always maintain the attitude of a student. That would be the subject of one day. And you would, at the time we were students, so we would be like, okay.
What? Yeah.
And then what? But he said, the thing is, we're taught that once you're done with schooling, schooling is a tough thing to get people to swallow. Organized education, we all are like, school sucks.
Sure.
Let us out to play. But when you find, for me it was theater, when I found my subject that I loved, I didn't want class to be over. I wanted, because I could feel this is what I'm going to spend my life doing. I found my thing, and I was so lucky to find my vocation. And he was, that's what he was alluding to with that Zen lesson. If you spend your life with the attitude of a student, what am I learning? How am I improving myself? No matter what your age is, what is my project? How are my relationships? How's my house? How's my garden? Should I learn a language? Should I build a canoe? If you always have something to work on, then when I get up in the morning, I'm excited. I'm like, today I'm building the seats for my canoe. And soon I'll be able to paddle my canoe. And then there's always a program of learning, versus if we think we're done learning, if we're like, okay, I've graduated, I have my degree, where's my parade? Like, I'm the master Jedi. Why are you not worshiping me? And you can see how that leads to bitterness and being jaded, where you're like, where's my fulfillment? And the fulfillment comes from using your creativity and curiosity to keep living and saying, where's the work I can do? Where can I be of service?
Sounds night and day from maybe going to high school in Minooka, Illinois. Huh?
Well, very much so. I mean, it's, the reason that I'm such a strong patron of Japan House is because I'm aware of my own ignorance. I don't have any better idea than our educational system.
Sure.
But I know so many people who are so brilliant, but go through school uninspired or uninterested because they don't have that person saying, you got to figure out, you got to find what you love. You're not, who wants to read a book if you're not going to love it? Nobody.
Right, yeah.
And so for me, that study of learning, that sort of direction of education was so profound for me, and I just want to support this program. And I mean, even from Chicago, it's worth a day trip. It's 3 hours south on 57.
Yeah, it's not far.
It's a whole park-like setting. Look up they have classes and events and art shows. It's for me and so many like me at the U of I. It was just this incredible epiphany of like this thinking, this culture from Japan somehow has landed here in
the Midwest,
in Champaign-Urbana.
Yeah,
which is kind of a jewel in itself. Like it's so packed with culture for being in the middle of the cornfields. I'm very grateful for that college town, but Japan House is just a specific jewel on their outfit. It's just, and I just want everybody possible to have that experience that I did to just think about, oh right, the world.
There's more than just the cornfields you see.
There's more than the cornfields.
Or the skyscrapers.
There's more going on than like the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
And I've benefited greatly from that teaching, and I want to share that with others.
I feel like that is something that the entire world can use to remind them that there's more than just you. I say that to my kids all the time who are of teenage years, and they're glued to their phone. And I remind them, hey, there's more than just you in this. Like, put it down, look around. And it reminded me of when you were talking about finding something else, finding a passion. I mean, if you look through the list of your work, you've done every gamut of entertainment. You learned how to be a carpenter is it from your father?
Yeah, I started with my dad.
Before you even went off to school.
That's right.
And you've carried that with you all the way through with, you were talking about a canoe. I don't think you were actually kidding. I think you were actually making a canoe.
I've built a few canoes, yeah. I mean, but it's all of a piece. It took me some years to figure out basically how to be good at acting. And during those years, I still wanted to be among the theater people and making things with them. And quickly in school, we all had to take scenery class and lighting class and costume class. And in the scenery class, the teacher, had us hammer a nail, and I did it well. And he was like, "Oh, you're," and I said, "Yeah, I've worked as a house framer to pay for college. Like I can swing a hammer." So he hired me, and that was my first really nice shop. And I said, "Oh man, I can thrive in." Like I really got a wood shop. And so I said, "And they'll pay me to work in here and build scenery while I'm trying to learn acting." And that turned into my wood shop, and that became part of my character, Ron Swanson. Like, but also with my sensei, like his whole sensibility is, one of his teachings is the way of the art is the way of the Buddha. And that means you need to discover what Mother Nature has given you and how that can benefit your family, your community. And in this day and age, we can't escape the fact that the whole world is our community. We can't escape the fact that like what resources we use as a country, a lot of, we're like sucking the milkshake from other countries who perhaps don't have the budget we do. And so the more evolved we become, the more civilized we become, hopefully we'll continue to think more progressively that we're sharing all these resources with all of our neighbors. And Shozo's teaching was part of that. So for me, it was like, okay, I want to entertain people, so I can do that by performing. I do it in my books. My last book is about teaching kids to use tools and make things. And the thing is, it's part of it is a trick. Because, we've all been in a class of like, okay, everybody draw a picture, or everybody dribble a basketball. A few kids are always going to stand out, and most of us are going to suck. But if you take a group of kids, or just a family, because we are also kids in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
go to the hardware store, go to the craft store. you may not end up making a table, but you might. Kids are going to be like, wait, what about these paint chips? Or what about, you're going to see all of the things available to us. And I just want to encourage us all to make things for ourselves and be aware of how we're consuming the materials of the earth. Because when we're not aware of it, then we allow corporations to abuse them.
Or to tell us how to use them.
Right. We give them our agency, where we're like, I'm going to send you money. I hope you're going to be cool with the way you make my blue jeans and the way you make my electricity. Of course, we've learned they're not going to be cool if they can help it.
When you got your start here in Chicago, that was what, the early to mid 90s, would you say?
Yeah, mid 90s, 93 to 97.
So a pretty interesting time to be in Chicago. You had right in the middle of the Bulls 2 3-peats, right? So the Chicago's the epicenter of the sports world with Michael Jordan playing, and then you have theater just booming in the city. What was it like back then, just to cut your teeth? You know, your soon-to-be wife in the future, you're running around, you know, trying to, you guys are dating, you're doing your thing. What was it like back then?
Well, I mean, in hindsight, I'm so grateful. I learned after that, when I went to New York and LA, that Chicago is indeed the best theater town in the country, because there's no ulterior motive here. You can't do theater here and like move to Broadway organically. Mm-hmm. Shows aimed for Broadway might start in Chicago, but you don't do a play because you're gonna get cast on a TV show or anything beyond wanting to do great theater for the reason people do theater. And so I just don't know any other big city in the country where you can affordably get a group together, rent a storefront space, and people show up. Mm-hmm. You get an audience. Maybe it's only 7 or 12 people a night, but we had a rule that as long as the audience outnumbered the cast, we would do the show. And it was the most incredible formative experience. You use the phrase, that's where I cut my teeth and learned, you know, what it is I wanted to express to an audience. What are the questions I want to answer before I get corporate money, before I get other studios and executives weighing in. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what if you keep your shirt on during it? You know, and you're like, no, let me do it the way I want. And I learned so much with my theater company was incredible, called the Defiant Theater. And I learned so much from them. We had so much fun working together. And our stuff was very kabuki flavored. Shozo's influence remains with me to this day. But I mean, our stuff was called like Kabuki Ubu Ra. And so then, only then did I move to LA, and that's where I met Megan. She had already moved there because she was a decade ahead of me.
But either way, that time in Chicago, though, it taught you, like you just said, what you wanted it to get out of this whole thing, right? To what you wanted to say, what you wanted to see. And has that time in Chicago, I imagine, paved the way? Do you think back of the roles that you've had throughout your career as satisfying that answer all the way back when you were still cutting your teeth?
Well, I think so. I mean, I interviewed Michael Pollan, the great writer, the great journalist, for my second book, and he said, you know, congratulations on your second book. Anybody has a book in them, he said, but when it comes to your second book, your follow-up, then that's where the hits the fan, because that's when you find out what are your insatiable questions. What is it? Why do you have to write another book? Why are you still going?
Yeah,
writing's hard.
Why should people care?
Yeah,
right.
And the same way with what I choose, the material that I choose to perform, or the people I choose to collaborate with, it absolutely comes from the ethic that I learned in Chicago. I did 5 shows at Steppenwolf in the 90s. I met this actor named Leo Burmester in Sam Shepard's Buried Child that Gary Sinise directed, and he gave me my first books of Wendell Berry stories, and that profoundly affected me. In fact, the benefit I'm doing at the Ramova that's one of my main places, and then the Berry Center in Kentucky, where the writings of Wendell Berry form the basis for this farming program. Those are these two schools of thought that I've said, great, I'm all set. These are my wizards. These are my philosopher kings, and that I will support. And I got that through Chicago theater. You know, we did this Faulkner piece, As I Lay Dying. Frank Galati adapted that for Steppenwolf. And I was so lucky to just be a kid, like, hanging onto the fender of the hay rack of these shows. But taking that ethos and saying, you know, that they made their fortune with Grapes of Wrath, and just looking at that subject matter and saying, okay, these are the unvarnished truths that I want to keep trying to focus on. I don't seem to do well in shows where girls take their tops off and it's fashionable or of the moment. And so, and it's funny, when I got to LA, the first few jobs I got were from casting directors that watched the Chicago pipeline. It was ER, The West Wing, and Deadwood.
Oh, those little shows?
Those little shows.
Yeah, right.
I would audition, like, all they knew was on my resume, I had Goodman and Steppenwolf and Wisdom Bridge and Chicago Shakespeare. And they said, okay. And the reason was they understood our work ethic. They understood that our hearts were probably in the right place because that's what Chicago breeds in you. For better or worse. I mean, obviously you have gorgeous talents like Megan Mullally come through here, but a lot of us are also not cute. But we've learned with our work ethic and our dedication that we can get hired to carry the Megan Mullally's on and off stage, and that job can pay well.
All the things you've done, you mentioned author, and actor and stage acting. Is there something that you haven't done yet that you're itching at doing? It's satisfying that kid back at U of I?
I mean, no, I have these alternate lives that like at one point I thought for sure I would attend wooden boat building school someday, or lutherie school to build wooden guitars, acoustic guitars. And I'm coming to terms with the fact that I probably won't get to. I got a lot of time left.
Yeah, sure.
The one class I've ever taken was a Windsor chair building class with my friend Peter Galbert at a wonderful school in Boston called the North Bennett Street School. And it's the one time I was there doing a play, he's the top Windsor chair maker. Obviously, everyone knows this in America these days. And I was able to take his class, and I cried almost every day in class at getting to be in the room receiving this teaching that I teach myself most of my, because I don't have time, so I use magazines, fine woodworking, and books, and that's great. But when you're there with the coach, you know, if you're working with the Cubs hitting coach, and he tells you suddenly you're swinging like PCA, you'd cry too. And so the amount of stuff I've gotten to do far surpasses my wildest dreams. I mean, I thought when I became Mr. Megan Mullally and I was like working as a guest star on TV and I had my wood shop, I was like, I can't believe how my life has peaked. And that was a few years before Parks and Rec started. So I'm just kind of hanging on for dear life.
Well, it's a great ride so far.
I'm very grateful.
Last question: when you come back to Chicago or Joliet or even Minooka, is there something that you do that, besides maybe going to the Japan House, something you do that grounds you back in without even realizing you might need it, but it just calls you back home a little bit? It could be a beef sandwich at Mr. Beef. It could be a Cub game at Wrigley or wherever.
I mean, Wrigley's too exciting. It is comforting to get into Wrigley, but I'm too much of a 5-year-old. Like, as soon as I get within a block of Wrigley, my heart rate starts going.
I'm with you right there.
I mean,
lifelong.
And since I've been lucky enough to get to like throw out first pitches or sing the stretch,
bucket list.
There's also an element of showbiz to it, where I'm like, in fact, one of my favorite things is to go to Wrigley and just try to sit among the people and not have
Pull a hat down.
Yeah, not have it be a thing.
Yeah.
But I have this wonderful big family out around Manuka. There are about 40, there are over 40 of us now. And Megan and I are the only ones that don't live within about a 10-mile radius of Manuka. And so just getting home to the family, I mean, we all get together constantly. My mom and dad have this incredible house. He's the mayor of Manuka, my dad now. And we sit in their yard and eat and drink and get caught up. If I'm there for a few days, there are a couple places we go for a walk. The whole I&M Canal has this, a lot of it is turned into the towpath, are these beautiful walks. And my dad has overseen, and one of my uncles, my Uncle Terry, they've overseen the development of new parks around Manuka. So they show me the trails they've been working on, and that's our family's thing, is we just love to get out and name the birds and listen to the bird song and look at the trees and then ultimately the Valhalla of our relaxation as we go fishing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your stories.
My pleasure.
The Ramova event is July 13th.
Yes. Yeah, this coming Monday.
And this musical runs through the 16th of August, so people should grab their tickets while they still can.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
That's all right, that is Nick Offerman and the Iceboy, the musical at the Goodman, Thomas.Barnas at CBS.com. If you have a For Love of Chicago story you want to tell me about, please do so there, Thomas.Barnas at CBS.com. Thanks for watching.